Check 1 2, check. Good morning and welcome to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I am your host, Frank Acom, and we are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning. And boy, do we have a lot to cover this morning. Will 2 hours be enough? Only time will tell. But we've got to start with the important news that many of you have been waiting for this exact program to fill you in. Yes, the budget was approved overwhelmingly with a 67% vote. You've got 1,698 yes votes, 834 on the no side. So the new budget proposal was passed. That means they will not be forced to go to a contingency budget. I think yesterday, with some of the conversations that we had, it was expected it would pass. If you recall, even when they were, and now this cuts at what, like 1.7 million, as compared to the first budget that they proposed, which lost the 60% margin, but still would have won if it was only at 50%. This only needed 50%. Not what I would call a huge turnout, though I don't recall the exact numbers the last go around, but not necessarily a huge turnout overall. But I guess for a 100-degree day in the middle of June, perhaps to be expected. So again, not a surprise, but wanted to start the program. And for those of you who will be watching all 2 hours, you will be hearing this a few more times because it is important and breaking news. I would like to hear your opinion on it. I don't think too many people are going to be surprised by that decision. Although after yesterday's comments, I know there'll be many that are disappointed with the kind of constant spending. And I do find school budgets kind of interesting just at kind of face value, because we talk about New York being so expensive to live in, and we talk about the cost of living and people moving out of the state. And the school budget is one example where we can vote maybe not to increase our taxes. And yet, historically, 97%, last go around, 97% of New York State school budgets passed. 97%, yes. But Corning Paint posted not. Now it has, by shaving $1.7 million off the $138 million school budget. On a sad note, if you have not seen the news, Willie Mays, the Say Hey Kid, has passed away at the age of 93. Mays passed away peacefully and among loved ones, his son Michael Mays said in a release from the Giants, the Major League Baseball franchise with which Mays was most associated. I want to thank you all from the bottom of my heart. Let me rephrase that. This is Michael Mays, his son. I want to thank you all from the bottom of my broken heart for the unwavering love you have shown him over the years. You have been his life's blood. Now, Mays was a five-tool player with the rare ability to hit for power and for average, while also excelling at running, throwing, and fielding. You know the records. You know the amazing stories, the amazing catch in the 1954 World Series, a baseball legend, such a part of baseball history. In the wake of Mays' death, there was a Thursday game that he was originally, the way I understand it, was invited to, but he could not make it, maybe perhaps due to health. But it also served as a national remembrance of, quote, an American who will forever remain on the short list of the most impactful individuals our great game has ever known. So Willie Mays passing away at the age of 93. Okay, we have a lot on the political front to get to. I want to remind you a couple things. That tomorrow, Steuben County Sheriff Jim Allard will be our guest. So if you have questions for him, you can send them during the interview, or you can send them ahead of time. Ahead of time is nice because I can compile them and get them kind of going to start the interview. But if you'd like to, during tomorrow's interview, right around 7:20, 7:15, right through there, the sheriff will be joining us next week. And I'll keep you updated on this. We'll be talking with Assemblyman Phil Palmisano to give us an update on Albany and the end of session. And also, I'm not sure why I skipped it over. On Friday, we're going to have representatives telling us about the history of Camp Gorton, celebrating 100 years. And they're having a big celebration for it. So that will be on Friday's program for this week. Okay. I think that's all of our housekeeping. Some interesting, well, let me ask you, and I know I've been doing this. I've been posing some questions at the beginning of the show, kind of running them through the show just to get your take on it. There are a couple very interesting articles, pieces this morning that kind of piqued my interest, and I don't know if they'll pique yours. One is the Washington Post. I think, are they both from the Washington Post? One was the unbearable heaviness of thinking everything is good for Trump. And I'll be honest, the article caught my attention. I'm not sure how they were going to take it. Well, the idea is for the vehemently anti-Trump individual, the never Trump person, they believe no matter what happens, it could ultimately end up being good for Trump. So when and they give all that anecdotal interview updates where it'll be somebody saying, well, here I was, and I got the news from my friends that he was indicted on all 34 counts. But then it hit me. Could he spin this in a positive way for himself? So what do you think about, and again, this is for, I mean, anybody can respond, but it's in regards to the mindset of anti-Trump people, the unbearable heaviness of thinking everything is good for Trump. Another, and here we go. This is the one that I think may get the most response. I'll be asking throughout the morning until we really dive into it further. But coming also from the Washington Post, a columnist suggests that Joe Biden, not Joe Biden should be replaced, but Kamala Harris should be replaced because she's not very popular. Now, who do they think Kamala Harris should be replaced by? Who would bring energy to the ticket? Who would alleviate those fears of Biden's age and perhaps mental decline, as some are reporting? Who would be the best person to replace Kamala Harris? Well, if you are a Pulitzer Prize winning columnist and your name is Kathleen Parker, you think that person should be none other than Hillary Rodham Clinton. So I would love to hear your thoughts on that. Okay. Did you see that Dr. Anthony Fauci, who's been in the news a little bit lately, and we are learning more and more about why following the science was a great talking point at the time, but also in the long term very detrimental. He has finally reversed course. After years of saying otherwise, he now agrees that keeping schools closed during COVID was a mistake. Now, I don't think, well, going back to that point of following the science, I think it's troubling that it took him this long to reverse course. As we've seen the numbers, we've seen forget what we've been talking about on the program with the college students and this anti-Semitism and what we're seeing on college campuses. And maybe you could draw a conclusion of their time spent in lockdown, getting them to that point where they've been radicalized perhaps, or having what you could deem, I don't know, real mental and social issues. That's not me. That's me saying that. We'll push that aside. We're just saying the numbers on the actual value of the education, what these kids went through, the social issues. Well, Dr. Anthony Fauci reversed course in an interview on Tuesday, agreeing that shutting down schools for more than a year due to the virus was a mistake, while also arguing the initial decision to close classrooms was correct. Now, many have talked about the pressure by the teachers union that led to this. There was a lot of calls back when I worked in Congress. I remember around that time there was a lot of investigations, a lot of hearings on the teachers union impact and their pressure campaign to keep schools closed for even longer. But that was just a side note. on CBS Mornings. He said keeping it for a year was not a good idea. So that was a mistake in retrospect, said co-host Tony Dokoupil. So in retrospect, that was a mistake. He said, absolutely, yeah. Now, he has previously stood by his recommendation that forced children out of the classrooms into remote learning, both in sworn congressional testimony and remarks to the press. So he has been clear on record that it was not a mistake. Now, again, just like we try to learn more about gain of function research and his denials on that over and over again, and then we heard that, well, they were covering up emails. That, yes, it does look like there was gain of function research funding, all of that. We learned that a couple weeks ago. The media mysteriously pretty quiet on it, if you think about it. But now we learn about, again, going to Congress. And really, I think most of us can agree Dr. Fauci, very cocky in his attitude that everything was correct until you start to peel back that onion and you start highlighting the mistakes. So after sworn testimony in front of Congress and remarks to the press saying that it was a good thing, he has now reversed course saying it was a bad idea. Now, during the summer of 2020, as many schools were considering reopening, Fauci butted heads with former President Trump, touting Centers for Disease Control and Prevention guidelines that force closures based on spread in the broader community. So remember, and that was a very big talking point in the press, that he was butting heads with Donald Trump. Fauci said that August, there may be some areas where the level of virus is so high that it would not be prudent to bring children back to school. Asked by PBS NewsHour's, the host Judy Woodruff, in that same month whether many months of virtual learning would be for the norm, Fauci answered, in some places, Judy, that may be the case. Now, I'm not going to go through all the history of when he said it wasn't a bad idea. One time saying, I don't want to use the word mistake. But after all these years, and after all of the statistics, all of the visual aspect of what we see with the struggles young people are having, we are now told that the person we were supposed to follow as if every word he said was the gospel, we now learn that yes, indeed, keeping the schools closed for that long was indeed a mistake, even to the point of saying, yeah, absolutely, yeah, it was a mistake. But remember what happened if you criticized any of the scientists, if you questioned any of their edicts, you were deemed a conspiracy theorist, you were deemed dangerous, you are attempting to kill grandma. You remember all of the talking points at the time. And this goes back to just a couple weeks ago when we were talking about that congressional hearing, what we've learned about the secretive emails, why they were keeping it secret, the gain of function research, et cetera, et cetera. Just a kind of a quick update. Not something I want to spend a lot of time on because we have to take our first break. I see some comments coming in. When we come back, we will make another announcement of what the school vote was. If you're just joining us, thank you, by the way, for joining us this morning. We have a lot to cover. So again, the questions this morning. Well, let's start with the main question. The Washington Post believes, a columnist from the Washington Post, believes that Joe Biden should drop Kamala Harris and replace Kamala Harris to energize the ticket, to ease the worries about age and mental health. Harris should be replaced by Hillary Clinton. Love to hear your opinion on it. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking after this.
Isn't your wellness important? Don't you want more energy? Now's the best time to make every day better and relieve those achy muscles and pains than with the Hesselson's Hot Tub. Hesselson's has hot tubs in stock and available for immediate delivery with unbelievable savings. Hesselson's offers 0% interest-free financing for up to 5 full years. Hesselson's carries the only hot tub brand in the industry with the exclusive freshwater salt system that is eco-friendly and easy to use and only enhances your hot tubbing experience. Come in today and see why your next hot tub should be a Hesselson's hot tub. And remember, it's always fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
Want to know why it's hard to stop a train? It's how we've invented products that reinvented our world. It's how we test as hard as the elements do. It's how we run.
Aaron's Heating and Air Conditioning in Corning, New York is a local, veteran-owned and operated company with over 25 years' experience. From service and repair to new installations, trust the experts at Aaron's Heating and Air Conditioning.
Attention care beneficiaries. This is an important message for people on Medicare. Today we are talking about Medicare Advantage plans. If you're new to Medicare, moving or losing coverage, and don't have a Medicare Advantage Part C plan, call now because there may be a Medicare Part C plan with additional benefits available in your zip code. You can call now to find out if you're eligible to enroll in a Medicare Advantage plan with additional benefits. Just call 800-351-6177 and a licensed insurance agent can look up your eligibility and plan options and see if you're eligible to enroll in a Medicare Part C plan that could save money or include additional benefits. Don't wait. You are not automatically enrolled in a Part C plan with additional benefits. If you're new to Medicare, moving or losing coverage, call for your free, no-obligation Medicare benefits review. You won't know what plan options are available to you unless you call, so call now. The call is free. Call 800-351-6177. 800-351-6177.
Broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning. You got a little extra music there because I was trying to do some quick math. If you're just tuning in and you are curious about what happened in yesterday's school vote in Corning Painted Post, it was approved by a 67% margin. 1,698 yeses, as you see there on the screen, 834 noes. I was trying to do quick math and I can't swear to it because I was doing it real quick. That's why you got more music. But the last go around, the first budget, had, 1,431 yeses to 1,418 noes. So quick math tells me there's about 317 less votes, and obviously the overwhelming, I don't know if it was a change in opinion or if the vote no crowd didn't get out in full force and the vote yes did, because there was very little difference in the yes. Let's see, because in yes, in the last go-around was 1,698. This time, 1,431. So anyway, I know, or vice versa, 1,698 this time, 1,431 last time. So a bigger turnout for yes overall, and not as much turnout, quite significantly different turnout, just 834 no's this go-around, 1,418 last go-around. Okay, enough about that. Let's go through some comments from viewers. And thank you for everybody sending in their comments. Must be all of the Corning Painted Post teachers and administrators voted. I feel that in all probability, if you check to see who actually voted, the majority work for the school district. Thank you for that. Next up, because we were just talking about Dr. Fauci, unfortunately, there's a lot more mistakes to the handling of the pandemic that will eventually come out. The challenge is to not repeat them. Exactly. And I would agree with that. That's why the hearings have to be done. That's why we need more forthcoming information. That's one of the major issues, kind of the stonewalling for all this time, going back to what we've talked about extensively the last few weeks with Cuomo. Heaven forbid we have to live through another pandemic. We need to make sure something like the nursing home decision never happens again. And that's why we need the facts from the former governor. That's why we need to get to the bottom of it. And unfortunately, that does not seem to be the case. That does not seem to be what is happening. Okay, next up. I am neither a Republican or a Democrat, but if Michelle Obama agreed to run for president, I would vote for her in a heartbeat. She would be the woman who is capable of doing the job. Too many individuals have thought we need a woman in the White House, as do I, but not just a woman for the sake of having the first woman in that office. Thank you for the comment. I know we talked to former Congressman Joe Sempolinski quite a while back when there was talks of Michelle replacing Joe Biden, and this happens, and it was very much the case with Trump too. When you pick a non-politician, now I'm not saying that Michelle Obama doesn't have politician tendencies or knows how to be a politician. I'm not saying that, but physically has no bill that you can point to that she voted on. That is a positive, like it was with Trump, because right now you can say, well, look what Biden did, keeping the border porous and wide open, or look what Trump did, whatever you're upset with Trump about. So there's actually something to stick them to. With, in the case of other names thrown around in the past, Obama or The Rock, or Oprah or The Rock, or in this case Michelle Obama, there's no record to run against. So thank you for that comment from a viewer. We have great back and forth here on the program. Next up, swapping Hillary for Harris definitely would throw Trump off a bit, but could possibly give him a lot more ammunition. That is a very good point as well. We always get great points from viewers. Yes, that would give him a lot of ammunition about corruption, the swamp, etc. We're going to get to that full article here in just a little bit. Question I asked yesterday didn't get a lot of traction, but I'll just quickly tell you what the New York Post had to say. They believe absolutely you should slap a Surgeon General's warning on social media and do it as soon as possible. More evidence shows that social media use damages young people in particular. As Surgeon General Murthy warned in a column for the New York Times, adolescents who spend more than 3 hours a day on social media face double the risk of anxiety and depression symptoms, yet the average daily use in this age group as of the summer of 2023 was 4.8 hours. 4.8 hours a day on social media. My goodness. Just like cigarettes, which have carried a Surgeon General's warning since the 60s, social media platforms are designed to be addictive. That's what makes them so profitable. At this point, teens who aren't on them often find themselves cut off from their peers, ostracized, not in the loop. A 2023 Pew study showed that 1/3 of U.S. teens are on social media almost constantly. So 1/3 of U.S. teens are almost constantly on social media. Meanwhile, the number of teens who say they don't enjoy life has roughly doubled in just a decade. Albany recently passed Governor Hochul's bill to limit apps' ability to use addictive algorithms to serve content to anyone 18 or under. Now, the New York Post believes that's a huge step in freeing kids from the grip of TikTok, Instagram, etc. As Murthy put it, the mental health crisis among young people is an emergency, and social media has emerged as an important contributor. And I would also tie that into what we were talking about with Dr. Fauci and the struggles because of that extended lockdown, which has also, I believe, led to this depression, this anxiety. The warning wouldn't infringe on free speech, but just acknowledge reality. Overuse of social media is harming America's kids. It's time to take the evidence seriously. Congress should take Murthy's advice. So just love to hear your opinion on that, because I had to play a little bit of catch up because we have to take another break. Thank you for all the comments. Keep them coming in. I would love to hear your thoughts on the school budget passing. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the Washington Post columnist who suggests replacing Kamala Harris with Hillary Clinton, or what the one viewer said, and I appreciate all the comments from all viewers, that they would vote for Michelle Obama if she agreed to run for president, because she is the woman who is capable of doing the job. Thank you for that. Keep the comments coming in. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
When I was in law school, my father had to stop working when he developed early Alzheimer's. Social Security disability benefits saved my parents financially. I'm Peter Gorton of Lockman & Gorton. Now I'm a lawyer who helps people when they need Social Security disability. If you can't work, I'd like to help.
For a free consultation, call Lockman & Gorton toll-free 1-800-698-0567.
Attention Twin Tier homeowners. Are you tired of paying too much for your energy bills? It's time you discover Koala Insulation of the Southern Tier, a premier insulation contractor. The professionals at Koala Insulation can give you a free, no-obligation insulation evaluation. It's one of the best home improvement investments you can make. Give us a call at 607-463-0616.
Discover Koala Insulation of Southern Tier. We are fully insured. Visit koalainsulation.com and find us near you.
Tending what you love is a lot easier when you share the heavy lifting. Team up with Polaris Ranger, your hardworking partner for backyards, the backwoods, farms, and ranches.
Ithaca Recreation Sports, Route 13 in Newfield. Get outside and ride.
What's up, guys? What I'm about to show you is going to change the way you shave your head forever.
You can shave your head in 90 seconds or less.
With no cuts or nicks. It's 100% waterproof.
It even works in the shower.
Introducing Remington's Balder Boss. With increased flex and 5 dual-track floating head design, get over 60% more head coverage for a faster, closer shave and skin-close results.
No nicks, no scrapes. Fit in the palm of my hand, and the results were amazing.
Shave in the shower or with any foam or gel. With Japanese-grade steel blades, plow through the thickest of hair. Anytime, anywhere. There's even a pop-up trimmer to complete your perfect groove. Now, you can try the Remington Balder Boss in your home for 30 days for just $14.99. Complete with a 5-year limited warranty and 100% satisfaction guarantee. You can also get our ear, nose, and brow trimmer free. Just pay separate processing and handling.
Give it a try. You won't be disappointed.
Order your Balder Boss now.
Saturday is Baseball Night in America on Fox. Matt Olson leads the Braves against Aaron Judge and the Yankees. Or the Brewers battle the Padres. It's Baseball Night in America. Saturday at 7.
We are back with Frankly Speaking, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. As a reminder, during tomorrow's Steuben Senior Services Fund section of our program, we'll be talking with Steuben County Sheriff Jim Allard. You won't want to miss it. We haven't had an update from him in a while. That's my fault, not his. So I'm looking forward to talking with him. Another comment from a viewer. Great job. Your past record of what you accomplish means nothing. It is most popular. And Michelle would be a puppet for Obama as Biden is. Well, the thing is, there is no, maybe I'm misunderstanding what you're saying, but there is no record of any accomplishments when it comes to politics with Michelle Obama. That's what would make, that's why a lot of people kind of latch on to people like Michelle Obama or Oprah, whoever, because it's really a clean slate. Now, you can definitely, you know what her politics are. I'm not saying that, but that's one of the things that the former congressman and I talked about kind of extensively it's probably a few months back now. So I appreciate all the comments. I love the back and forth. Another comment, a Michelle Obama Biden ticket wouldn't change anything going on in the administration. Just add her star power like they do to get an audience. Interesting point. I'm not sure. I don't think it would be Michelle Obama Biden. I think the only way Michelle Obama would get in there is if Biden dropped out. So what they're suggesting at the Washington Post is that it would be Biden dropping Harris, putting in Hillary Clinton. That's just to clarify, but I understand what you're saying. Thank you. Keep those comments coming in. Boy, hey, did you see that AOC went on kind of a late night rant? As you may be aware, I brought it up on the program that Benjamin Netanyahu is going to address Congress on July 24th, and you've started to see many Democrats push back on that, even though that Netanyahu was invited by Mike Johnson, Chuck Schumer, others, Hakeem Jeffries, Mitch McConnell. But AOC is not having it, and there's many in the Democrat Party that are not happy with it. But this is what she had to say. The man should not be addressing Congress. He is a war criminal. And he certainly has no regard for U.S. law, which is explicitly designed to prevent U.S. weapons from facilitating human rights abuses. His invitation should be revoked. It should have never been sent in the first place. This Democrat on Democrat fighting on this issue is interesting. Now, you've heard me say in the past, I wonder what is in the lead, meaning numbers-wise? Are there more Democrats that think the way AOC does? Because I don't believe they're the fringe like they try to suggest in the media. Or are there more people that lean towards a pro-Israel stance? I have my opinion on it, but I'd like to hear yours. Why not? Okay. Continuing also, I'm trying to make you aware of these type of things as we near election. We had Chuck Schumer put up a border bill, the bipartisan border bill, that he knew would not pass. But they want to use it as kind of a cudgel against Republicans trying to say, the Republicans wouldn't vote for this. They don't care about the border. After 3.5 years of this failed policy by the Biden administration, they're trying their hardest to blame it on Republicans. Schumer's added again, he is going to bring a bill restoring Roe to the floor as Democrats set up their next abortion messaging push. And we know that is going to be a major push before November. Democrats in Washington are setting off on their latest messaging push on reproductive rights, with Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer taking steps to set up a vote on a bill that calls for restoring Roe v. Wade. It comes as Health and Human Services Secretary Xavier Becerra is heading on a multi-day tour to bring attention to the issue in states around the country, just days ahead of the 2-year anniversary of the Supreme Court decision that overturned the, quote, constitutional right to an abortion, and less than 6 months away from the 2024 election. Again, this should come as no surprise, just preparing you for it. It's something that we will hear a lot about, and we are currently hearing a lot about. So, just a couple of quick hits there. We're going to talk about Biden here in a moment. We got a couple of New York State issues as well. We got some VP updates. There are, we talked about this so often on this program, which is the axis of evil, this idea of, we talk about specifically China, the real threats here to America. China, Russia, and Iran. And of course, you can lump North Korea in there as that kind of axis of evil. And their buddies, they reunited, Vladimir Putin and Kim Jong-un, visiting in North Korea. China also having a menacing nuclear-armed submarine near Taiwan. Again, provocation there, but we've also got to keep that in mind. And we may dive deeper into that later on, because that is very, very important, but we have so many domestic issues to get to. But as we've said on this program, it's not a matter of if, it's when China tries to take back or to take Taiwan. The problem with that is, what would we do about it? That's the major question. Obviously, the world is on fire under the Biden administration. We have Israel, we have Ukraine, and we've shown that weakness in the withdrawal from Afghanistan, and the weakness in general, starting to turn our back on our ally Israel. And the protests even here, don't think this doesn't weigh into it. The protests here at home on college campuses, don't think for a moment China isn't watching that and thinking about their next move. And I believe they see an opportunity. So just giving you that update. We have so many comments coming in. I'm sorry, I get distracted a little bit when that happens. When we come back from break, I do have a few things here about Biden. Again, the question of the day. Do you like that idea from the Washington Post of replacing Kamala Harris with Hillary Clinton, making for a stronger, what they believe, a stronger ticket? We also do have a lot on immigration. I know we talked about immigration extensively yesterday, but there's so much more to come out really daily with the Biden administration's decisions, what the moves that they are making. So we'll talk about that and much, much more. So stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
Attention, this is an important message for firefighters, members of the military, and airport workers. For decades, first responders and firefighters at military bases and airports used a chemical-based foam to fight fires. Studies have shown that chemicals used to make aqueous film-forming foam, or AFFF, are highly toxic to humans and have been associated with several types of cancer. If you or someone you know was diagnosed with any of those cancers, call now for a free case review.
I'm Marianne Burt. I've lived here for 70 years, but I do fine right here in my house, and I want to be here as long as I can be. And I feel comfortable knowing that if something happened to me, someone would know because of the cameras that are installed in various spots in my home. That has been a wonderful gift to me, to be able to have that security and that support from Full Circle America, and that's what it's all about.
Make your first move with battery power made by Steel. Find battery tools in the AK homeowner system starting at $199.99. Real Steel. Find yours.
The world's best pizza has been baked in ovens made of stone, but you can't put one of those on the countertop in your home. Introducing Paisano, the authentic pizza oven by Granite Stone. Now make the world's most delicious pizza with real stone right in your own home. You simply set it and let it make golden, crispy, extra cheesy stone-baked pies in under 6 minutes. The secret is the dual-controlled heat zones that quickly heat the real ceramic stone up to 800 degrees so you can stone bake just like the pros. Plus, there's no gas, wood, or charcoal needed. Paisano is electric, plug-in, and portable. You can get your Paisano pizza oven for just 4 easy payments of $39.99. And we're going to drop one payment. You get it all for just 3 easy payments of $39.99. Plus, we'll ship your entire order free.
Call 1-800-597-7208 or order online at buypaisano.com. Call now.
Our beautiful view of Market Street as we broadcast live from the Hesselson studio. Thank you so much for joining us this morning, and thank you for all the comments back and forth. We have a few more comments. Again, the last time I announced it, though, in this hour, the school budget results. We will announce it again in the next hour, but I don't want to come back from every break with this. So it did pass, approved 67%. You see the numbers there on your screen. A comment from a viewer, and this is in reference to the New York Post and so many others, Governor Hochul and others, talking about a warning label on social media. Here's a comment from a viewer. Once again, society wants the government to legislate parental behavior. Should children's usage of social media be limited? Yes. But parents, not the government, should be monitoring their children's activities on social media. Back before social media, our parents kept track of our activities, not the government. Thank you very much. Thank you for all the comments. Okay. And keep them coming in. I love reading the back and forth here. Okay. As we get back on track. Remember, yesterday we learned that we're not allowed to really even talk about some of these freezes that Biden has been involved in lately, whether it's at the Juneteenth celebration, whether it's at that Hollywood fundraiser the other day, that really you're not supposed to talk about it, according to the White House press secretary, that it's, what's the term that they use? Cheap fake. She originally said deep fake, which is not true. That would be AI generated. Cheap fake is she's suggesting is taken out of context, which is ironic when you think of how many things they've said about Trump taken out of context. But anyway, taken out of context, or maybe slowed down, or not giving you the full picture. Well, again, the president appeared to freeze up yesterday. This was at the podium of the White House East Room, where he was announcing new measures giving illegal immigrants living in the U.S. a pathway to citizenship. And we're going to talk about that extensively in just a little bit. But I kind of want to get this section, not out of the way, but I want to get this, a few things here about this to you. Biden introduced himself using his familiar quip about being Jill Biden's husband. He thanked Congress and Homeland Secretary Mayorkas, but seemed to trail off when trying to remember Mayorkas' name. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to introduce you all the way, Biden said, eliciting laughter from the audience. That uncomfortable laughter that happens a lot because they've expected it at this point. The president then appeared to brush off the flub as a deliberate joke, commenting, quote, "But all kidding aside, Secretary Mayorkas Secretary of the Department of Health and Human Services, Becerra, and advocates and families, law enforcement, faith leaders, and everybody that's there. So he had just a pause there. But that concerns you when one of the major players in the open porous border, when the name doesn't roll off your tongue, is President of the United States. Also, the all kidding aside and the no joking, which is kind of a crutch statement in radio. We used to call them crutch words or crutch statements where you just fall back on that, which is something that Biden does. All kidding aside, I'm not joking. No joking. Biden used the event to announce sweeping new policy changes in an election year that would give hundreds of thousands of illegal immigrants in the United States a pathway to citizenship. We'll talk about that in just a little bit, but tying it in with that freeze. The New York Post editorial board says Joe Biden's, this issue of his frailty is no cheap fake. American voters will believe their eyes. The Biden White House is yet again asking you not to believe your lying eyes. This time about the president's quite obvious and frighteningly rapid advanced frailty. And this is a great point by the Post. We talk about it so often on this program. Never mind what you see. Believe us. Because there's actually a piece here looking at more companies. And if you've noticed this lately in the news, more companies announcing bankruptcies and closures, many citing inflation, as almost 3,200 stores face shuttering in 2024. I want to say there was just an announcement by Pizza Hut. We had the Red Lobster announcements. But again, we are told over and over and over again that the economy is great. You just don't realize it. And you say, boy, it didn't seem great when I went to the grocery store yesterday or I went to the gas station. It didn't seem to be really helpful to my checkings or savings account. But this is another example of this, going back to the Post's piece. Just in the past week or so, Joe has frozen up at a Juneteenth musical celebration and a megabucks, star-studded, as the media always says, LA fundraiser, where he was led off stage by his former boss, Barack Obama. He also pulled one of his trademark wander-offs during a public meeting with the Italian Prime Minister. The administration's response to the Post's reporting on these worrying and embarrassing moments, what was the response? White House Press Secretary Jean-Pierre is calling them cheap fakes, i.e. dishonestly edited pieces of right-wing propaganda, and trying to pretend Biden's behavior was normal. This despite their being captured on video and seen by millions. No, the only cheap fake here is what Jean-Pierre and her boss are peddling. But I think this is twofold, though, too, and I don't believe the Post is in on this at all. I don't think... Listen, the administration itself is not going to be happy with these videos. I have a feeling the campaign isn't as angry at these at the time being, because if the debate ends up happening, these videos, which unfortunately have become more frequent, and as they said here, is frighteningly rapid, I think this plays into the idea of, that I've been saying, the low bar, setting the bar so low during the debate. So a lot of these videos will end up, if Biden has, when I say good performance, I mean really the bar is set so low now by the media and by Trump, has even a presentable debate, meaning coherent sentence here or there. And remember, he is, whatever you see these videos, he does give speeches on the regular. Now, I know there's teleprompters and things like that involved, but you can memorize certain things to say. So if he can memorize enough to get him through it, I don't know, they'll call it a win. But anyone observing Biden since he came into office will have noticed the decline in his speech, his bouts of mental fog and confusion. Democrats might not like it, but instead of offering a rebuttal, because there is none, the White House sharpshoots our journalists, says the New York Post. And how utterly demeaning that the White House daily briefing should devolve into petulance over whether Biden was the only one not dancing at the Juneteenth celebration. That's how low it has become. Jean-Pierre applauded a piece in a conservative magazine, the Washington Examiner, for its alleged defense of Biden at the G7, except it wasn't defending the president, just quoting British Prime Minister Sunak on the subject. Another cheap fake from KJP. And she failed to highlight concerns over Biden's age and fitness in liberal media going back months. And that has been a little surprising. It's not as prevalent, don't get me wrong, but it has been interesting, such as the New York Times saying no matter how powerful your rhetoric, you can't browbeat Americans out of a concern as obvious and relatable as the fact that age matters, said David French in an interview. If Biden's unwillingness to face his own limitations now clears the way for Trump's restoration, it will be not just a mistake, but a tragedy, thundered lefty Michelle Goldberg. And that's been a very interesting point that I've heard from, anecdotally from liberal friends who said if he were to have dropped out, Biden, he saves his legacy of defeating Trump, which to Democrats is the most important thing that he's accomplished. If he loses, that whole legacy is erased. So kind of like the anger with Ruth Bader Ginsburg after she passed away, saying that she, should have got out and all that. Same kind of thing with Biden. They're pushing the idea that if this leads to a Trump presidency, his legacy is destroyed. He will be a hated man in Democratic circles. But I'm going to continue and just wrap this up because we're running late. Like when DHS head Mayorkas said that he and his employers don't bear responsibility for a broken system causing our border crisis. They do. Or when KJP herself took the podium to try and sell the public on the idea that Bidenomics is great by pointing out that gas prices remain well below the peak back in 2022. Now they're still up big time over where they were under Trump, and they were put there by Biden inflation. Those are just two examples from a list that could fill volumes of these cheap fakes coming from the White House. Biden and his flunkies have such a low opinion of the public that they think this stuff will fly that this will fly, Every piece of polling evidence out there suggests it won't. And that's no cheap fake. So that's from the Post. Running late. We've got some comments coming in. Oh, hey, some waves too. Thank you. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox, stay with us.
Isn't your wellness important? Don't you want more energy? Now's the best time to make every day better and relieve those achy muscles and pains than with the Hesselson's Hot Tub. Hesselson's has hot tubs in stock and available for immediate delivery with unbelievable savings. Hesselson's offers 0% interest-free financing for up to 5 full years. Hesselson's carries the only hot tub brand in the industry with the exclusive freshwater salt system that is eco-friendly and easy to use and only enhances your hot tubbing experience. Come in today and see why your next hot tub should be a Hesselson's hot tub. And remember, it's always fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
If you or a loved one regularly used hair relaxers or straighteners and were diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, you may be entitled to significant financial compensation.
I've used hair relaxers for years. I had no idea they could cause cancer.
Chemical hair relaxers and straighteners have been linked to serious conditions, including several types of cancer.
How do I know if I have a case?
Call 844-292-6222 and consult with one of our attorneys to find out if the products you used are part of the lawsuit. Your eligibility will also depend on how often you use these hair products and your specific cancer diagnosis. If you regularly used hair relaxers or straighteners and were diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, call us now. Call 844-292-6222.
How much will it cost to talk to an attorney?
There is no fee unless we win your case. Call 844-292-6222 for your free case review.
Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Hakem. We're broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning. A comment from a viewer, Ken from Horseheads writes, actually, I like the idea of the Democrats keeping Joe and Kamala. While I still believe that the Democrats will cheat their way back into the White House with early voting, ballot harvesting, mulling ballots, Dominion voting machines, stuffing ballot boxes, and after-hours ballot counting, Joe and Kamala will make it much harder. Hillary, Michelle, or Gavin would make the steal easier and more believable for the Democrats. That's from Ken. Thank you very much, Ken. Keep those comments coming in. We've had a kind of a hodgepodge of different opinions this morning, haven't we? If you missed the very beginning of the program, and the reason why Ken had mentioned that at the very top of his comment is that a Washington Post columnist is suggesting that Biden drop Kamala Harris because Harris isn't that popular and I don't know if this is the answer, but her suggestion is that Hillary Clinton should take her place, and I would love to hear your thoughts. To your point, though, Ken, there's where is it? Oh, darn it, I grabbed the wrong one. There it is. Out of Wisconsin. One of Wisconsin's Republican congressmen, who was in one of the state's competitive districts, says if Republicans are going to win, they have to go as far as Democrats. Congressman Brian Steele said, you've got to play by the rules as they're written. So where Wisconsin law allows us to early vote, to vote absentee, to do other things to turn out the conservative vote, we got to play by the rules as they're written if we want to win. And I think that's a good point. We've heard, again, I don't want to always quote him, but we talked about former Congressman Joe Sempolinski. We talked about that, the idea of early voting. Using the rules. You may not like the rules. Just like we didn't like some of the rules during COVID, but of course the COVID rules, some of them stayed when it came to voting. You may not like the rules, but that is how they are written. So we have to play by their rules as written. And again, you don't have to like those rules, but we want to win. Steele said that the effort actually began Tuesday with former President Trump's rally, where a team of over 100 volunteers signed up voters and supporters. This is in reference to massive voter turnout push and embracing early voting. Then we're going to work to track to make sure not only that they're signed up, but that they do vote. Making sure that we actually bank the voters, as President Trump now calls it, swamp the vote. Meaning at the end of the day here, we can either complain about the rules as they're written or we can win. I'm sick and tired of losing elections in Wisconsin. And to win, we have to bank votes and vote early in order to overwhelm the Democratic turnout that we know we're going to see in Madison. To improve people's confidence in our elections, what we want is one set of rules for everybody to play by. Elections themselves are going to be partisan, but we want the administration of those elections to be nonpartisan, and not changing the rules is absolutely essential. So just tying that in. Biden's immigration whiplash. That's an interesting way to put it. Coming from CNN. Biden's immigration whiplash from tough talk to empathy in 2 weeks. I like how they always use that term, empathy. It's hard, in my opinion, to sell the empathy. And I think they realized this for a while, but they've kind of went away from it. Because that's one of the, the talking points of the Democrats, that Joe Biden is so empathetic. He has so much empathy. It's hard to accept that. And it's hard for a lot of people to accept that when you realize that he has ignored his 5th grandchild. And I think that's why, for what they finally released that statement acknowledging her, but never meeting her, never, showing love for their grandchild. So that empathy line always gets me and always bothers me, but they think they have a winning point with that. But anyway, that's not why they brought this up. That was just me going on a tangent. From tough talk to empathy in 2 weeks. Yes, we heard that Biden was going to crack down. Where do you see the numbers that we'll bring to you in the next hour about his crackdown on immigration on the border? So he starts with that and we go, okay, well, he's doing that for an election talking point. Just like Hochul talks about public safety and doesn't really do anything. She makes one little change and then says, look how tough I am on public safety. Same with what Biden's doing here in election year. But then he comes out and says, oh, yeah, here's a whole bunch of amnesty programs. Biden promises, this is CNN again, Biden promises empathy. Trump promises mass deportation. Remember, the deportation thing, they want to paint it as evil, cruel, heartless. The American people, and we're going to get to this later on too, the American people, the polls show, want deportation. Even a majority of Hispanics want deportation. Trump's deportation policy, Biden argues, would, quote, rip spouses and children from their families, homes, and communities and place them in detention camps. Do you hear the rhetoric? You want to talk about dividing in this country. The rhetoric that this administration and this campaign uses, this threat to democracy, detention camps, you start down this, and they've been doing this since the very beginning, but you start down this process, it only gets worse and worse. I know Trump calls it Trump derangement syndrome, but that's why you see that. Someone who maybe doesn't pay all that much attention to the news, only has their liberal bubble of friends and their MSNBCs, they're driven to this level of unhinged, almost insanity, because they've been told how bad this person is for how many years now. And not just bad like in the old days, he voted against this or he voted. You're talking very, very troubling rhetoric coming from the Democrats and the Biden campaign. And in this case, of course, the media as well. You can never undervalue what the media, what role they have played in this. We got to take our last break of this hour. A lot more to cover. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
Was your premature baby fed a cow's milk baby formula such as Similac or Enfamil? If so, your child may be entitled to significant financial compensation. Evidence shows that cow's milk formulas increase the risk of NEC in premature babies, causing severe harm and even death. If your child was born premature and suffers from NEC, intestinal perforations, sepsis, cerebral palsy, or died as a result, you may have the right to sue for significant financial compensation. Call now for a free case review.
When it comes to fun, it's what we do. See Night Ranger perform hits like Don't Tell Me You Love Me and more. Tickets are $20 and sales benefit the Southern Tier Veteran Support Group. Tioga Downs Casino Resort. Fun is what we do.
Name a food you might make your edible underwear out of.
Salmon.
Wild caught Norwegian teriyaki.
Sharing the fun. Weeknights on Family Feud.
7 and 7:30 on Big Fox.
The Bix website is here now. WYDCTV.com. Local and national news that keeps you informed and involved. WYDCTV.com. Today's weather up to date and in your town. WYDCTV.com. Sports news, local events, and health stories that affect you. WYDCTV.com. The Big Fox website. Your news here now. WYDCTV.com.
Again, our beautiful view of historic Market Street here in Corning as we broadcast live and proudly from the Hesselson studio. I cannot believe I haven't mentioned this yet. I know I've been asking the question all morning long about should Kamala be replaced with Hillary Clinton, because that's what the Washington Post columnist is suggesting. I had not mentioned this, and I apologize. I knew it was going to be one of these mornings where we had so much to cover that some things would get pushed by the wayside. This will not be pushed by the wayside, but I want to ask your opinion so we can get the comments flowing. What do you think about the New York Appeals Court keeping in place a gag order on former President Trump? With the upcoming debate, I mean, maybe there won't be a debate. Maybe James Carville was right yesterday in the sense that Trump won't show. I mean, you've got that gag order in place, giving them another excuse to use the weaponized justice system, go after him. I couldn't, when I saw that, it just another feather in the cap's not the right word, another nail in the coffin for faith in the justice system. I'm telling you, and just to see the politicalization, the weaponization of the criminal justice system, it's amazing. It's shocking. A comment from a viewer. Although there is value in recycling, I'm not sure that the country, with the economy the way it is in the mood for the return of Hillary's glass ceiling dream. She's just going to have to sell the leftover fireworks from her last run. Thank you for that comment. Yeah, I was a little surprised they went with Hillary on that. We're going to talk about that in the next hour as well. We've got a lot on immigration. I am out of time for this hour, so I don't want to get into the numbers on immigration, which we're going to show you since the quote-unquote crackdown, what has happened at the border. And I think you already know the answer, but we'll give you a little more specific on it. We've got a couple other Biden campaign issues, Trump campaign issues, maybe a few New York State issues if we have the opportunity, maybe even some international news with China menacing nuclear-armed humpback submarine surfaces near Taiwan. All right, so we could talk about that as well, or at least get your opinion on it. Please weigh in at any time. When we come back, if you're just waking up, if you're just joining us, I will give you the numbers again at the top of the hour on the Corning Pen and Post school budget, so you have to stay tuned for that. Hour number one in the books. Stay with us. Mere moments. Hour number two of Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
If you or a loved one regularly used hair relaxers or straighteners and were diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, you may be entitled to significant financial compensation.
I've used hair relaxers for years. I had no idea they could cause cancer.
Chemical hair relaxers and straighteners have been linked to serious conditions, including several types of cancer.
How do I know if I have a case?
Call 844-292-6222 and consult with one of our attorneys to find out if the products you used are part of the lawsuit. Your eligibility will also depend on how often you use these hair products and your specific cancer diagnosis. If you regularly used hair relaxers or straighteners and were diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, call us now. Call 844-292-6222.
How much will it cost to talk to an attorney?
There is no fee unless we win your case. Call 844-292-6222 for your free case review.
I'm Marianne Burt. I've lived here for 70 years, but I do fine right here in my house, and I want to be here as long as I can be. And I feel comfortable knowing that if something happened to me, someone would know because of the cameras that are installed in various spots in my home. That has been a wonderful gift to me to be able to have that security and that support from Full Circle America, and that's what it's all about.
Our number 2 of Frankly Speaking, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. I am your host, Frank Acom. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Here are the numbers if you are just waking up. The Corning Painted Post school budget did pass yesterday. A really large turnout for the yes vote. I don't mean overall numbers wise, don't get me wrong. I'm just saying the yes numbers last go around was, I had it here. Oh, there it goes. 1,431 voted yes last go around. This budget, 1,698. And then the clear difference in no, just 834 no votes for the second attempt at a budget. Last vote, 1,418 voted no. So clear difference. But there are your numbers, because I know many of you went out and voted yesterday, and there are a lot of comments. You can still comment on the budget, what you think, and any of the issues of the morning. We've been receiving a lot of great comments, and I got to say, if you missed the first hour, you missed a lot. This mass amnesty that Biden was proposing yesterday, many GOP lawmakers weighed in on it. House Homeland Security Committee Chair Mark Green, a Republican from Tennessee, said that President Biden's election year 11th hour ploy for mass amnesty is not surprising, but it is an important reminder for anyone who doubted. This administration was never serious about securing the border. Right, that major change, that crackdown, that was all for show. By allowing otherwise inadmissible aliens to remain in the country indefinitely through a parole in place sleight of hand and to receive generous taxpayer-funded benefits, this president is sending a loud and clear message to any would-be border crosser that the door is not only wide open, there's a welcome mat. National Republican Congressional Committee Chair Richard Hudson said Joe Biden is a failed president, kowtowing to the same left-wing radicals who pushed him to throw open the border in the first place. Americans are begging for more border security, but the administration's misplaced mass amnesty plan encourages even more illegal immigration. So this should really come as no surprise where he really stands. The crackdown was all for show, and I'm going to tell you about those numbers in just a second. One other comment from Speaker Mike Johnson saying yesterday afternoon, just 2 weeks ago, the president pretended to crack down on the open border catastrophe by engaging an election year border charade. Now he's trying to play both sides and is granting amnesty to hundreds of thousands of illegal aliens. The president may think our homeland security is some kind of game that he can try to use for political points, but Americans know this amnesty plan will only incentivize more illegal immigration and endanger Americans. And that's what's so interesting. But he is trying to play both sides because listen, there are no core beliefs, as we talked about in the past with Biden. It's all about, at the end of the day, votes. So when he says he's going to be strong with Israel, got their backs, well, until you start to see the college protesters, until you started to see his own party criticize him, and then he turned his back on the allies. But listen to the crackdown, okay? Since President Biden's crackdown, and even others are starting to highlight how ridiculous that is, how the media kept referencing it as a crackdown. And I said the morning that it happened, when I woke up, I was watching some late night news, and it said, this crackdown, the strongest on the border in years. In years? In 3.5 years? Anyway, some 42,000 migrants have illegally crossed the border from Mexico in the days since President Biden's crackdown took effect. Border Patrol sources say that most of the migrants are still being given court dates and released into the U.S., despite the Biden administration's claim the new measures would stem the flow of illegal immigrations into border towns and major cities. But remember, they put into place, when they released this executive order, these are the exceptions that allow you to cross. Giving the how-to. Thousands are still released by the day, a source said. They get their ICE appointment and they're gone in the wind. You think they're going to show up when they know they don't have a legitimate claim? Of course not. The average number of crossings each day is about 3,200 since the order began on June 5th. The 2 weeks before that, there was an average of more than 3,900 crossings a day, suggesting the policy hasn't had any kind of real impact on illegal immigration at the southern border. So again, this should come as no surprise that the crackdown was all for show. But do you know why? Because we were talking about the mass deportations. And the mass deportations, the media is presenting as evil, cold-hearted, that Trump, it just shows his penchant for being a dictator in some way. But the polling shows that the American people are supportive of it, because we've seen, listen, there's a reason why immigration is a number one concern for voters that are polled, and that's consistent. That's been consistently the case, because they see what it has become, what the open porous border has done. But you know the real reason why deportations are, the deportation plan from President Trump is, for lack of a better word, popular? So much so that Hispanics in a recent poll showed that they are supportive of mass deportation. Well, according to Representative Jayapal, the reason that they're popular is because people are reporting on what's happening. Let me explain. It was on, of course, Joy Reid's program. Joy Reid said, this is one of the reasons that people have this sort of thinking. Here's the 3 cable networks reporting on this. One banner said, soon, Biden announces legal protections for undocumented spouses of U.S. citizens. CNN's banner said, Biden announcing new protections for some undocumented spouses. Here's what Fox's banner says. Migrant arrested for raping 13-year-old New York City girl. And so I think that's part of the problem, right? Is that you have a lot of fear-mongering. So it is fear-mongering if you report the facts. Do you understand how the media's propaganda works? Because if this doesn't tell you what we're dealing with the media, I don't know what does. So they want the media to push what they would deem a positive story about Biden. They don't want you, the American people, to know what's happening on the street, what is happening when it comes to public safety, what the negative repercussions of an open porous border really are. They don't want you to know that. But Jayapal responded, exactly, that's part of the problem. So this is a member of the United States House of Representatives suggesting part of the problem is reporting on the actual news. Reporting on stories that they deem uncomfortable to their narrative, to their agenda. So again, I'm going to start with that quote over again. Jayapal responded, exactly, that's part of the problem. Exactly. We know that when people have economic insecurities, well, why would they have economic insecurities? I thought the economy was doing great. Now I'm confused. But I'll continue. When they're facing high childcare costs, when they're facing high housing costs, they are concerned for themselves. And so anybody who comes into a space of that economic insecurity and says, hey, why are these people getting something that we're not getting? It does turn people against those people, whether they agree or don't agree that they're helping the country. The economics of immigration are absolutely, you can't argue with it. We have brought in so much money through immigration, and the surge in immigration has already brought in so much money and will continue to do so. Brought in so much money, but yet we're talking about economic insecurities. As a matter of fact, what she was saying there could be an anti-Biden campaign ad, talking about all the financial insecurities that people are having in this country. Why is that? I thought the economy was good, number one. Number two, if you are struggling financially, that means, according to Jayapal, that you are easily manipulated by some outside conservative media source. Because if you see a story, and I hate to keep bringing this up, this is not the kind of story I want to bring up this morning, but when you start hearing stories time and again of, in this case, migrant arrested for raping a 13-year-old girl in New York City, when you see that and you're outraged, and because of the Biden administration you have economic securities, you somehow are being manipulated by fear-mongering, it's to twist themselves up into a pretzel is an understatement. But again, I'm confused why anybody out there has economic insecurities. That's not what we've been told. We've been told the economy is wonderful. And so I feel bad for those out there that apparently have economic insecurities. Also, kind of piggybacking off of that, Joy Reid says that Democrats and Hispanics that are supporting the mass deportation is because of how the polls are being asked. Listen to this. Reid said, there is this thing that's happening in the conversation on immigration on the ground level, which is that polling, and we don't know how reliable it is and how it's worded, and I guess it depends. Great sentence there. And we don't know how reliable it is and how it's worded, and I guess it depends. That you seem to see more even Democrats, or at least a third of Democrats, and even Latinos in some cases, in favor of mass deportation. It's, I guess, a lot of guessing here. It's a question of people's fear of, employment, competition, or fear of a disorderly process that they didn't have to go through. And they feel like I went through the orderly process. What do you think is behind that? Jayapal, again on this interview, said, first of all, I think the polls are all over the place. There was just a poll recently. A lot of it depends on how you word it. If you say, do you want disorder at the border, or do you want people to just come in across the border? And that's when Reid, which is always nice to do with your interview, is interjected, cut in, interrupted. To your point, not to cut you, but let me read this to you. So this is the poll in favor of mass deportations. This was the question. It was, quote, would you favor or oppose the U.S. government starting a new national program to deport all undocumented immigrants currently living in the U.S. illegally? And so it's like it casts these people. These are folks that are working in the meatpacking plants. So to cast them as exactly what they are, undocumented immigrants, is manipulating you into polling for deportation. It is so confusing. How are you supposed to reference them? It's kind of like global warming, climate change, and all that. They've changed the word that you're allowed to use so many times, and it gets a little confusing. So I guess you're supposed to cut that part out and just say, would you support a deportation? I don't even know how you would reword that. They didn't even call it illegal immigrants. It says deportation of all undocumented immigrants currently living in the U.S. illegally. These people, it's amazing. But when we come back, Isaac Shore, I've got a lot of comments here. I'm going to read your comments. But Isaac Shore has a piece that I think ties in with this perfectly. We're not going to just talk about immigration, but we had to mention a few things. When we move off of this topic, we got a lot about the campaigns. As I said, the Washington Post is asking, should Biden replace Kamala Harris with Hillary Clinton? Also, what do you think of the gag order on Trump and the weaponization of the judicial system? And remember, gag order while the former president of the United States running for president of the United States as the nominee of the Republican Party and has a presidential debate coming up. I don't know. I can't wait to read your comments. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Stay with us.
Our water's better tasting, it's better for the planet.
That's great, sir. Can I take your order?
Oh, number 3.
At Culligan, we get that most people don't think about water like we do, and that's okay. You see, when we install our drinking water and softening systems, we're thinking about filtering contaminants and the minerals that make water hard. So you can just think about softer, cleaner, better tasting water. At Culligan, we think about your water, so you don't have to.
Call today to schedule your free water test.
What do when your tire goes flat and there's no air anywhere to fix that? You reach for Bullseye Pro, the smarter, faster, hands-free way to fill it up with air. Bullseye Pro is equipped with a rechargeable lithium-ion power plant. So fast, so strong, and so convenient. It's like putting the power of an air compressor in the palm of your hand. Look, you can inflate all 4 tires of your car on a single charge, or inflate a bag full of soccer balls at practice. Bullseye Pro is so advanced, it has a built-in smart pressure digital sensor that gauges and automatically stops when the set tire pressure is reached. Plus, it can be 100% hands-free. You simply set the target pressure and walk away, keeping you out of harm's way. Bullseye Pro is lightweight, durable, and powerful enough to inflate this massive monster truck tire. Plus, it has 4 ultra-bright LED lights to safely inflate at night. Bullseye Pro comes with 3 custom air nozzles on board, so you can easily inflate pool toys, exercise balls, and more. Forget driving to the gas station. Bullseye Pro is your anywhere, anytime inflation station. Call or go online now and get the complete Bullseye Pro inflation system, all for the factory direct price of just $79.99. It comes with a 90-day money-back guarantee. Plus, we'll ship your entire order free. That's right, free shipping. But to really inflate this offer, we'll give you a 50% discount on a second one. You get it all. An incredible value for one low price. Call or go online to order now.
To order, call 1-800-974-9753 or go to getbullseyepro.com. So call 1-800-974-9753. That's 1-800-974-9753 or order online at getbullseyepro.com. Order now.
And we are back. Sorry, got some extra music. We have so many comments coming in. Just trying to read them before we go on the air, just so I don't stumble. And we're going to go to those comments in just a second. But I think got them all. Hey, we're broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning. Thank you for joining us. We've had great conversations all morning long. Again, if you are just tuning in, this is probably the last time I'm going to read it. But the Corning Painter Post school budget did pass yesterday. So there's your numbers on the screen. Let's look at viewer comments. And please keep them coming in. Don't forget, tomorrow, Sheriff Aller is going to be on the program as well, so you can have your comments for him, your questions for him. All right, here we go. Trump's statement to deport all illegals should be toned down. It works fine in his rallies to excite the crowd, but probably won't excite the nation after he's elected. Not as simple as his statements alludes. It's not. It won't be a simple process. I would agree with that. But again, the poll. I don't trust polls, so this is tough. But the polls show that the American people actually, even some Democrats, a third of Democrats and Hispanics, don't have a problem with the deportation. So I'm not sure. I'm not. And to continue your comment, it's going to be very tough to put the genie back in the bottle that Biden released. That I agree with. I think it's a tough way. I don't think the policy hurts him. I think it's one of those policies that if it doesn't come to fruition, if he becomes president, if it isn't successful, yeah, there could be a lot of pushback. But next up, Frank, Biden can't just change immigration law on a whim. Hopefully this goes directly to the Supreme Court. I hope so too, but with the executive orders we've seen in the past, that very often it does look like you can. Another comment. I would advocate that, and this Ken, thanks Ken, I would advocate that instead of playing by the rules to win the election, we should play by the same game that the Democrats play. And playing by the rules isn't it. The Dems rely on the old adage, nice guys finish last. Thank you, Ken. All right, ooh, another wave too. Okay, to wrap up immigration policy, though you can continue to comment. Well, add into it, the risk of a terror attack on U.S. soil rises to alarmingly high levels, experts warn. We keep mentioning this. It's not to scare you. But people have the mindset right now of September 10th. And when you look at an open porous border in the countries that the people crossing the border are coming from, when you look at how many people that we know of, gotaways that were later arrested because of their terroristic ties. You saw which has still not been reported, but we reported a lot here, the Jordanians that crossed the border illegally that were apprehended after sneaking on or trying to get on the military base with a truck. Anyway, so we are in a period where a number of factors are combining to make a terrorist attack on the homeland far more likely than perhaps it has been, said Paul Murr, a retired NYPD inspector who worked at counterterrorism for nearly 15 years. Murrow said the risk of a potential new attack could be assessed in a criminal context. Who has the means, motive, and opportunity to successfully execute a deadly plot? The world has gotten a lot smaller since 9/11. You've got drones. The interconnectivity of the internet is in every area of our lives. So maybe they don't have the connectivity. You can get an uplink using something like an Elon Musk satellite. You can get online from the mountains of the Hindu Kush. You've got AI capabilities. You've had all the time to develop capabilities since 9/11 if you are still in the terror business. Anyway, I think it ties in so much so from the open border as well. We've let 10 to 20 million illegals in the country with little or no vetting. It's a canard to think that they're all just from small towns in Mexico or Bolivia or Ecuador or something. We're seeing a wave of migrant-related crime developing now, but you would have to be a fool not to take advantage of the ability to insert assets seamlessly and with no friction into the American homeland through the southern border. If you're sitting where Iran is, where China is, where Russia is. Okay, that's when I tie this into Isaac Shore. He said on Monday, you can't even report this or you're fear-mongering. On Monday, a 23-year-old man from El Salvador who entered the country illegally was arrested for the murder and rape of Maryland's Rachel Morin, a mother of 5, last summer. He also allegedly found the time during his vacation in the United States to break into the home of and assault a 9-year-old girl and her mother. A day later, an Ecuadorian migrant who crossed into the country illegally before authorities apprehended and then released him into the country was arrested for sexually assaulting a 13-year-old girl in Queens. President Biden's response? To announce what CBS News reported was to, quote, one of the largest immigration relief programs in recent history for, quote, hundreds of thousands of immigrants living in the country without proper documents, as well as dreamers and other undocumented immigrants. Former President Donald Trump is on track to complete one of the greatest comebacks in American political history. Less than 4 years ago, Trump, sicked a mob on the Capitol and his own vice president, foisting a national embarrassment on the American people. And I meant to give this disclaimer at the beginning of this with Isaac Shore, not a big Trump fan. But now they want him back, meaning the American people. Who can blame them? On almost every conceivable issue, Biden has steered the country in the wrong direction. And we've talked about that when it comes to foreign policy. His legacy, his history has always been on the wrong side of history, always been making the wrong decisions. In some cases, it almost seems as if the president is thumbing his nose at the public, like when he named a spending bill the Inflation Reduction Act. But no failure stands out quite like the crisis he's manufactured on the southern border. Polling indicates that immigration weighs heavily on voters' minds. According to Morning Consult, 58% of swing state voters say immigration will be very important in determining their vote. And an additional 28% say it will be somewhat important. And it is the single most critical issue to 15% of the same, placing it behind only the economy. And the most conspicuous evidence of voters' frustration, however, comes in the form of a recent CBS News YouGov survey, in which 62% of respondents and 53% of Hispanics expressed support for a new national program to deport all undocumented immigrants currently living in the U.S. illegally. That's interesting. So that means Joy Reid and Representative Jayapal believe that CBS News was somehow misrepresenting what deportation really is and tricking you. Anyway, all of a sudden, the median voter is making Donald Trump circa 2015 sound like a squish. You can thank Biden for that. The crisis at the border and the surplus of drugs, crime, and other maladies that stem from it are the direct results of his actions. Opening the border was a choice, one that seems likely to cost Democrats the White House. Earlier this month, Biden seemed to have finally come to the realization that his record on the border is a weight around the ankle of his re-election campaign. He made a big show of signing an executive order on border security 3.5 years into his presidency that he had previously insisted was not within his power to issue. Yeah, couldn't issue it before that. Nothing's wrong with the border. Then there's nothing I can do. Now, naturally, that all originally was a red herring. Yes, Biden is going to limit and restrict asylum to some people who cross the border illegally in between ports of entry. But he's going to continue bringing in tens of thousands of migrants per month using this CBP-1 app and flying them into the country via these parole flights. So the illegal crossing numbers may go down a little bit, but he's bringing more people into the country through quote-unquote lawful pathways. In other words, Biden's come-to-Jesus moment on the border was a ruse. Biden's focus is where it's always been, on allowing as many people as possible to circumvent the regular immigration process, consequences be damned. This is a moral and policy failure that has inflicted suffering upon the citizens Biden is duty-bound to protect. It's also a staggering political own goal. If you suspected that Donald Trump might be your opponent again and believed that he is an existential threat to the American democracy, why on God's green earth would you hand him so much ammunition to work with on his signature issue? That's a good point at the end there by Isaac Shore. I wanted to wrap it up with that point. Okay. How late am I running this morning? Keep those comments coming in. We will be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox, stay with us.
Isn't your wellness important? Don't you want more energy? Now's the best time to make every day better and relieve those achy muscles and pains than with the Hesselsen's Hot Tub. Hesselsen's has hot tubs in stock and available for immediate delivery with unbelievable savings. Hesselsen's offers 0% interest-free financing for up to 5 full years. Hesselsen's carries the only hot tub brand in the industry with the exclusive freshwater salt system that is eco-friendly and easy to use and only enhances your hot tubbing experience. Come in today and see why your next hot tub should be a Hesselsen's hot tub. And remember, it's always fun to poke in the corners at Hesselsen's.
Hey, this isn't about cars versus motorcycles. Drivers, don't make that turn too quickly. Riders may be closer than they appear, and they're more at risk when you're driving distracted. Riders, follow the speed limit and wear protective gear. If we all just slow down and look around, we can make our streets safer. Together, riders and drivers can save lives.
Dear road rivals, no truck on the road drives value like the Tundra. Day after day, mile after mile, it all adds up to big savings under the hood. What's under yours? Toyota Tundra.
Get 1.99% APR for 48 months plus 1,000 TFS subvention APR cash on Tundra or lease one for just $4.99 a month. Find yours at Toyota.com. Toyota. Let's go places.
What could whiten your teeth by simply brushing your teeth? Now you can with Smile Actives, the teeth whitening breakthrough that safely gets your teeth white and keeps them white every day just by brushing your teeth. Simply add Smile Actives to any toothpaste and our patented PolyClean technology activates into a powerful microfoam that penetrates into the enamel surface to safely lift and remove stains.
You need a simple way to whiten your teeth. Without strips, without trays, without going to the dentist.
I eat the blueberries, I drink the coffee, and I know that Smile Actives will keep my teeth white every day.
Now you can whiten your teeth with new Smile Actives Pro Whitening Gel every time you brush your teeth. Call or go to smileactives.com and for a limited time get new Pro Whitening Gel for just $24.95. Order in the next 5 minutes and buy one, get one absolutely free. We'll even include free shipping. Call or click now before the special buy one, get one free offer goes away.
What an active show we're having this morning. Thank you for all the comments. We're broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. I'm Frank Acom. You're watching Frankly Speaking. First comment from a viewer. Ken is absolutely right. Doing the right thing is not in the Democrats' wheelhouse. Thank you very much. Next comment. Hi, first-time caller. Long-time listener, first-time caller. From North Carolina. Who's going to be the next vice president? I see Tim Scott can raise boatloads of money for billionaires, from billionaires, and he's a great public speaker. What are your thoughts? I like Tim Scott a lot. I'm confused. No, I'm not confused. So right now we've got the process going on where you have those that are vying for VP, really campaigning behind the scenes. Because you don't think of it as a typical, like a presidential race or a congressional race. But behind the scenes, they're dropping certain hints that, I hear from the Trump, anonymous sources from the Trump administration that they don't like Tim Scott. Or we hear that Doug Burgum isn't liked, or Elise Stefanik. So it's people surrounding, and I'm not naming anybody specifically, but let's say I'm running, or I want to be VP, and I see Tim Scott, how, again, to the listeners or viewers' point, I think he's a great public speaker. I think he gives a great interview. I think he can energize a crowd. So if I'm running, want to be VP, and Tim Scott's in there, maybe I drop that hint to a more conservative outlet and say, I've heard anonymous sources, don't quote me, this is off the record, I've heard anonymous sources within the Trump administration saying that they do not like Tim Scott, or J.D. Vance just doesn't have the charisma, or hoping that they get Trump's ear, because at the end of the day, it's all Trump's decision. But this behind the scenes kind of VP campaign is very fascinating to me. Now, my theory has been on the program, and many of the viewers' theories have been, all these names we throw around, whether it's Tim Scott, whether it's J.D. Vance, whoever you may think, Tulsi Gabbard, we have a viewer write in a lot wanting Tulsi Gabbard. I really almost think at the end of the day, because of Trump's nature, that we have not heard the name of who he actually picks as of yet. Now, if you're really into politics, it's going to be someone you had an idea of maybe, but a name that hasn't even been on the short list or even mentioned on any of the lists. I kind of subscribe to that a little bit, that it's going to be a shocker come convention time, because there's a couple upsides to that. Right now, the media is preparing, and the Democrats are preparing who they believe on the short list. And people are saying right now the short list seems to be, who is it? J.D. Vance, Doug Burgum, and Marco Rubio. That's who they believe are the top three. I don't know. The Marco Rubio thing still confuses me, which is not a knock on Marco Rubio whatsoever. It's just you go from little Marco to the VP. Anyway, that one has surprised me from the beginning, but it's not to say it's not a knock on Marco Rubio. So that's the three that they are saying. So the media right now, as well as every Democrat politician, they're doing the vetting process behind the scenes because they want to be ready day one of the convention, saying, just to pick on Kristi Noem, if she didn't put it out in her own book, but she did, so that's her own fault, but not to pick on her. But if that was not known and she were picked, the next day on the front page of every paper, on every news broadcast would be Kristi Noem tells story about putting down her dog. So they are being vetted thoroughly. Now, if Trump comes out of, and we use this term not politically, but just as saying left field, with a name that no one was prepared to vet, could be interesting. And it seems very Trump-esque. J.D. Vance actually referenced the rumors. Yesterday we had the piece from the New York Post that they want to see Doug Burgum. And I find that interesting. Doug Burgum was one that came out of nowhere a little bit for me. Not that I didn't know who he was. I just didn't expect him to be on the list either. But Doug Burgum is who the New York Post essentially endorsed. Then J.D. Vance, or then Marco Rubio second, and then J.D. Vance. Well, J.D. Vance was asked on Fox News Channel's special report about potentially being Donald Trump's running mate. Now, one thing, to go back to Tim Scott, your point about Tim Scott, I think Tim Scott made a mistake. He was on, I want to say, one of the more conservative outlets, maybe it was Newsmax. I think he made a mistake by cutting Trump off at the knees a little bit, because he was talking to somebody and saying, hey, I may be back here to talk with you during the convention, in a way to insinuate that he was potentially going to be the VP. Trump doesn't want that announcement taken away by anybody. So if he was on that short list, that might have, I know he's on the short list, but if he was at the top, that may have knocked him down a couple pegs, because Trump wants it to be his announcement. But J.D. Vance was asked about being former President Trump's vice president. Brett Baer said, could you imagine yourself behind the resolute desk as president? He said, well, look, Brett, I think that's Donald Trump's choice. whether he selects me as vice president. My attitude is there's a lot that needs to happen in the United States Senate, in the United States Senate. I like being a senator, Brett. The president has not asked me, but if he does, I'd certainly let you know. So Brett Baer said, yeah, I know. To just say, are you ready to be president on day one? That's the biggest job for a vice presidential pick, right? Could you be comfortable being president? That's okay, Brett. But anyway, he says, look, Brett, I've seen a lot of people operate in politics, and I feel very comfortable with the fact that I could do the job. But look, you have to have some humility going into this. It's a massive, massive job for anybody to undertake. I'm not auditioning for the job. I asked the people of Ohio to elect me to be a United States Senator. But certainly, look, if Trump picks up the phone and calls you, the first sort of thought you have to have with yourself is not just could I be vice president, but could I stand ultimately in the big chair? And look, if he asks me, I'll think about it. But I think the answer is yes. Well, there you go, J.D. Vance. And I know a lot of people have been pushing him, specifically in conservative circles. Did I hear yesterday he's 39 years old? Interesting. Oh, and Trump also, just to kind of, I don't know, fan the flames of some other people it could be, Trump raves about Vivek Ramaswamy at that Wisconsin rally. He's going to be with us in some form. Always laying down the hint. If I gave it to Vivek to do, he'll pull it off, said Trump. He's going to be with us in some form. He's a smart guy. All right, there you go. We got to take a break. Thank you for all the comments. I see some more comments coming in. We'll get to those after break. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
What do you do when your tire goes flat and there's no air anywhere? You reach for Bullseye Pro, the smarter, faster, hands-free way to fill it up with air. Bullseye Pro is equipped with a rechargeable lithium-ion power plant. So fast and so convenient. It's like the power of an air compressor in the palm of your hand. Look, you can inflate all 4 tires on a single charge. It has a built-in smart pressure digital sensor that gauges and automatically stops when the set tire pressure is reached. Easily inflate pool toys, exercise balls, and more. Call or go online now and get the complete Bullseye Pro inflation system for the factory direct price of just $79.99. Plus, we'll ship your entire order free, and we'll give you a 50% discount on a second one. Order now.
Order call 1-800-970-9843. That's 1-800-970-9843 or go to getbullseyepro.com.
I'm Jonathan Lawson. If you're 50 to 85, please listen closely. The lock I want to talk to you about isn't the one on your door. It's a rate lock for your life insurance that guarantees that once you're insured, your rate can never go up at any time for any reason. Many policies you see don't have one, but you can get a lifetime rate lock from Colonial Penn. This plan was designed for people on a fixed income with coverage options that start at $9.95 a month. That's less than 35 cents a day. Your rate is locked in for life. Coverage can never be canceled, and your acceptance is guaranteed. You cannot be turned down because of your health. See for yourself. Call for an information kit and gift. Both are free with no obligation.
Call 1-800-781-9990 for your free information and your free gift. That's 1-800-781-9990. 1-800-781-9990. Call now.
In a few words. Urkel, glasses. Nerd. It pays to know your nerds. If you guys didn't get nerd with me sitting up here on this show, 25 words or less.
Weeknights at 5 and 5:30 on Big Fox.
Name a food you might make your edible underwear out of.
Salmon.
Wild caught Norwegian teriyaki.
Sharing the fun. Weeknights on Family Feud.
7 and 6.
Broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on historic Market Street. I'm your host, Frank Akam. Thank you so much for joining us. Don't forget, tomorrow during the Steuben Senior Services Fund section of our program, we'll be talking with Steuben County Sheriff Jim Allard. So if you have any questions for the sheriff, you can get them in at any point between now and actually during the interview. We take questions live on the air. Okay, a couple comments from viewers. Nikki Haley suggested for VP. I think that's a tough sell. Nikki Haley, I understand it would perhaps bring some of her voters. I think her voter number is overhyped. I think a lot of people that said they were vote or did vote in the primary for Nikki Haley weren't at the end of the day going to vote for Nikki Haley come general election if she were to win. I think they were independents leaning, and this is not to knock Nikki Haley. I do believe she's a Republican, but I believe the way she campaigned towards Democrats and independents and left-leaning independents specifically, I just don't see a scenario where even if she were on the ticket, that really gets Trump very many votes. Next comment. Why can't Fauci be held accountable for destroying so many lives and livelihoods? Great question. It seems like Washington, for whatever reason, doesn't even want to get to the bottom of the gain of function research they helped fund. So and now that he's changed his tune after testifying in front of Congress and so many other places that keeping kids out of school for so long wasn't a mistake, now he admits it's a mistake. So I'm not sure. I wouldn't hold your breath on that. Next, the left loves to use the anonymous sources mantra and never reveals the source. I couldn't agree more. I had said during the Trump presidency that there were so many anonymous sources that I don't believe. I think it got to the point where the media said, you know what? Just come up with a quote saying anonymous source, we'll call it a day. Go get a beer. They had so many anonymous sources that I don't believe. I think at one time that was believable, right? Oh, anonymous source. You hearken back to Woodward and Bernstein and Deep Throat and all that. Yeah, the anonymous source now, I believe a lot of, we'll never know the answer, but I believe the number of actual anonymous sources to just completely made up anonymous sources, I would put it over 50%, not even being real people or not from the organization they claim to be from. A new poll coming from economist YouGov says that most Biden voters admit that they are voting against Trump rather than for Biden. And I think that was probably the case a little bit, or at least it was speculated that was the case back in 2020 as well. So that number doesn't really shock me. A slight majority, 51%, admitted that they are mostly voting against Trump compared to 48% who said they are mostly voting for the 81-year-old. Okay, this is the story we've been bringing up all day. But according to Pulitzer Prize winner Kathleen Parker from the Washington Post, she believes that Biden would ease concerns about his advanced age by kicking unpopular Vice President Kamala Harris off the ticket and replacing her with Hillary Clinton. Boy, I don't know the optics of that. I think she may be too smart by half on this one, because I understand what she's saying, but the optics of the first vice president, the first person of color, a woman, boy, I don't know. For Hillary, no one has mentioned her as a possible running mate for Biden, as far as I know. But why not replace Harris with Clinton, she wrote. Again, the optics of that from a political standpoint, I think are a tough sell, but okay. Parker cited the 81-year-old Biden's steady decline the past few years, which have been made more apparent through his stumbles, his search for words, his occasional blank stares, all of which are now impossible to ignore. No, you're supposed to ignore them. You shouldn't be talking like that, according to the White House press secretary, Jean-Pierre. Parker argued that having Harris on the ticket would deter already skeptical voters due to the vice president's competency or lack thereof. Ooh, harsh words. Now, with Hillary Clinton at 76, she might not want any part of it, but it's hard to retire when you feel your job isn't done. If Biden needs to step down, even those who didn't vote for Clinton would have confidence in her ability to keep the country on track. Parker added that it's just a thought, but worse ideas have met with regrettable success. She wrote that replacing Harris could be risky given that it may jeopardize black votes, but the Democrats want to win elections and that their votes would back candidates presumably to advance a worldview consistent with their values. Okay, so that's what we've been bringing up all day. Also, we didn't really talk about this, and I don't have a lot to mention with it before we go to break, but I found this a really interesting piece, and it's for anti-Trumpers, people that don't like Trump. And the piece is the unbearable heaviness of thinking everything is good for Trump. So what they're saying is there's this kind of anxiety, this mental state with some people that don't like Trump, that find it to be unbearable, this idea that everything that he does. Even the 34 felony counts ultimately will be a good thing for him. It's kind of an interesting piece. You can find it, I believe, at Drudge Report this morning, though I know it's linked from the Washington Post. We got to take another short break. Keep those last-minute comments coming in as we wrap up today's edition of Frankly Speaking. Moving right along. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
Stock up for summer and save at GCP Discount Liquors and Wines. A High Noon Vodka Seltzer Variety Pack, regularly $26.99, is on sale for $24.99. Final cost $19.99 after mail-in rebate. Kim Crawford Sauvignon Blanc or Rosé, normally $15.99, is now $12.99. Save up to $48 on a case with rebate. That's $8.99 a bottle after rebate. GCP Discount Liquors and Wines in Horseheads. The best in service, selection, and price. Bathroom of your dreams is only a phone call away with BCI Bath and Shower. We can make your ordinary bath and shower extraordinary. This is not a cookie cutter design. This is a complete custom build that will fit your every need. It's never been easier or more affordable than right now to get the bathroom of your dreams. We have the best monthly programs in the industry with payments as low as $99 per month or no payments, no interest for 18 months with approved credit. The hardest part of your new bathroom is gutting and building the tub and shower. If your bathing area is old, there could be damage behind the walls and possible mold and mildew, which can be a serious safety issue. At BCI, we don't cover a problem, we fix it. Call now to get a never clean glass treated door with the no-track system at half off for the first 50 callers. Factory trained, certified installers made in the USA and discounts for seniors and military. Call 800-704-1798. That's 800-704-1798.
Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom. Thank you again for joining us as we wrap things up. This It's a 2-hour broadcast. They still go fast. Isn't it pretty amazing? Okay. We touched on this earlier in the program, and I want to get your opinion. We haven't really had a lot of comments on it. But a New York appeals court on Tuesday, or maybe we haven't got comments because maybe you just expected this, but they kept in place a gag order on former President Trump, who asked the court to lift the ban on his speech after the recent guilty verdict in his unprecedented criminal trial. Now that the trial has concluded, and the former president and presumptive GOP nominee in the 2024 presidential election awaits sentencing next month, experts say the gag order, which Judge Juan Marcan has refused to lift, is untethered from any compelling rationale. But hasn't, I know that's a kind of a fancy way of saying that, but that doesn't surprise. That's been Merchant's MO from the beginning. There doesn't have to be a rationale. Remember, he told the jury basically follow the old books, Choose Your Own Adventure, where all 3 options lead to guilty. So again, I know we talked about it on the program, but not even really knowing what the ultimate crime was. Jonathan Turley, who we quote a lot here on the program, said you have a local New York judge effectively limiting what the leading presidential candidate can say in the months leading up to an election. The continuation of the gag order seems untethered from any compelling rationale, particularly in light of the election. But isn't that the ultimate goal? Yes, they got to say, not the ultimate goal. The ultimate goal was to be able to have the label of convicted felon. They got that, but why not? That's why I think with keeping the gag order in, that's why I'm still leaning very heavily on the fact that he's got the options of throwing Trump in jail, in prison. I don't think he wants to do that. He realizes optics would be too much on that, and then it will definitely hurt Democrats. Then there's probation. He gets no trouble. He can go out campaigning. Doesn't want to do that. That's not enough. But he'll act as if, look, I should throw you in prison. It's 34 felony counts. I'm not going to do that. I don't want you to think it's political, so we're going to put you under house arrest. Knowing full well that the media can say and the Biden administration can say, see, justice has been served. He went easy on him. 34 felony counts. He's in beautiful Mar-a-Lago. We should all be so lucky. He talks about how great Mar-a-Lago is. So see, he's just fine, knowing full well that it takes him off the campaign trail. And we've said that from the beginning. I've said that's my thought from the beginning. This just reiterates it, that if he's keeping that gag order in place, it's part of what the ultimate goal was, is to keep him from campaigning, keep him off the campaign trail, keep him on his toes in so many ways, figuring out ways to run a new form of a new campaign. Turley noted that the appellate courts are generally highly deferential to courtroom management type issues like the imposition and continuation of gag orders, but he said it is deeply concerning that Judge Merkin would continue a gag order long after the verdict has been reached and the jury dismissed from the case. It's not surprising, though, is it? Would we expect no less from Judge Merchant? Putting aside the questionable value of the continuation of the gag order, in this case, Judge Merchant is ignoring the countervailing cost for the political system. Again, it's never been about that. We said it's never mattered what the precedent was that was set. It's about the short-term win. It doesn't matter that this is, many experts, not even necessarily Trump supporters, saying that this is going to be the precedent that's been set for former presidents, to be dragged through court. But continuing, Trump's lawyers cited the November presidential election and the first debate against President Biden later this month, as well as the First Amendment rights of the former president and his supporters as reasons for the order to be lifted. John Shue, a constitutional attorney who served in both Bush administrations, noted that some of New York's highest profile defendants were not subject to such a gag order as the 45th president is being subjected to. Quote, the Manhattan DA's office has charged all kinds of high-profile criminal defendants throughout its history, ranging from celebrities to gangsters, such as Lucky Luciano, and they weren't silenced the way former President Trump was. Neither was John Gotti, the former head of the Gambino crime family and known as the Teflon Don. Say what you want about Donald Trump, but he's not a mobster. The trial is over, and there's no chance that Judge Merchant is going to vacate the verdict and grant a retrial. Both the verdict and the gag order now will go through the New York State appellate system as two separate appeals. Shue noted that Trump's lawyers filed an expedited appeal of the gag order, and that typically any time a litigant asks the highest court in a jurisdiction to step in and shortcut the process, it has to be something very unusual for them to agree. Stephen Chung, a Trump campaign spokesperson, said, the gag order wrongfully silences the leading candidate for president of the United States, President Trump, at the height of his campaign. The gag order applies only to President Trump and not to any of his political opponents, critics, or even crooked Joe Biden. The election interfering gag order violates the First Amendment rights of President Trump and all American voters who have a fundamental right to hear his message. At the end of the day, it's all about getting Trump, is what this has shown us. And it doesn't matter what precedents that are being set. It doesn't even matter how biased you end up looking. At the end of the day, it is... Sorry, I moved my glass of water out of the way. It's all about getting Trump. We've got a couple other updates, wrapping things up. Stay with us, a few comments. Get your last second comments in. We'll be right back. Frankly,
looks like y'all got a lot of stuff here in your water.
You're never gonna believe it, but this can filter up to 60 different contaminants from your water.
It's all about cleaner drinking water.
Dude, that's good water.
And that's good water.
Now that's good water.
That's good water, eh?
No matter where you live, there's a Culligan water expert nearby. At Culligan, we think about your water, so you don't have to.
Call today to schedule your free water test.
If you've won regularly used hair relaxers or straighteners and were diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, you may be entitled to significant financial compensation.
I've used hair relaxers for years. I had no idea they could cause cancer.
Chemical hair relaxers and straighteners have been linked to serious conditions, including several types of cancer.
How do I know if I have a case?
Call 844-292-6222 and consult with one of our attorneys to find out if the products you used are part of the lawsuit. Your eligibility will also depend on how often you use these hair products and your specific cancer diagnosis. If you regularly used hair relaxers or straighteners and were diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, call us now. Call 844-292-6222.
How much will it cost to talk to an attorney?
There is no fee unless we win your case. Call 844-292-6222 for your free case review.
welcome back to Frankly Speaking. Wrapping things up on the program. If for some reason you're just joining us, yes, the Corning Penny Post school budget did pass. 67% of the vote as well. Also, tomorrow, Sheriff Jim Allard will be our guest, so don't miss that. A couple last-minute quick things, so bear with us. As I had mentioned earlier, more companies are announcing bankruptcies and closures, citing inflation as almost 3,200 stores face shuttering in 2024. We've talked about increasing minimum wages as various states have driven up costs, where people now are struggling to even go get fast food. More companies are declaring bankruptcy and shutting down operations, citing inflation and high costs. I just don't think this can be the case, though, is what we're told over and over again by the media. My headphone just broke. Over and over again by the media that the economy is great. Inflation and the economy remain a top issue among all voters, according to a recent The Center Square Voters Voice poll. Retailers are closing nearly 3,200 stores this year, according to a recent analysis from CoreSite Research. The closures are a 24% increase from just last year. U.S. drugstores and pharmacy closures led to 8 million square feet of shuttered retail space. We've got to tie this in, too. I know when it comes to New York, a lot of this can also be due to public safety. So it's inflation, it's high costs, and also the issue of public safety with shoplifting becoming such a major factor. And it does go on to say that. It also notes that retailers are losing inventory and customers due to retail theft. Retail shrink is closely connected to organized retail crime, it notes. Of the 3,200 being closed, the majority are being closed by roughly 30 retailers. We got Family Dollar, some others that are maybe worth mentioning. I'm not going to go through every single one. Just another example of never mind what you're seeing with your eyes. The economy is good. There is absolutely no reason to worry. Hey, did you see the RFK Jr. won't qualify for the June Trump-Biden presidential debate? That's what it looks like. The debate was set up in a way that they wanted RFK Jr. out of there. So that really comes as no surprise. Independent presidential candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. will fall short of meeting the ballot access requirements needed to qualify for next week's debate between Biden and Trump. Wow, next week already. Can you believe it? Kennedy has long maintained that he would meet all criteria needed to qualify for the debate. I don't think they still would have let him in. It's really CNN's rule. There's no commission. But including having his name on enough state ballots to have a mathematical chance of winning the Electoral College. However, the independent candidate is not on the ballot in several states where he has claimed that he is, and he won't meet the threshold needed to qualify for the June 27th CNN debate by the Thursday deadline. The Kennedy campaign claims its aggressive ballot access operation has surpassed all its milestones to ensure RFK Jr. is on the ballot in all 50 states. Well, again, I'm not surprised. That's more of an update for you. Correct me if I'm wrong, maybe you thought at some point that he would be a part of the debates. The reason, well, that's one of the many reasons why Biden wanted it so early. I think the most important being is to get his campaign back on track, because remember, the media is going to say he does a great job no matter what. So I do think another part of that was to keep RFK Jr. out of it. Finally, Hochul is telling us that the legal cannabis sales are up across New York amid the crackdown on the illegal shops. And I know we've had some enforcement of that. We talked with Watkins Glen Mayor just last week talking about the crackdowns in Watkins, and we've had him around here as well. Steve Kuzo writes for the New York Post why shuttering New York City's illegal pot shops is more urgent than ever. I don't think it's just New York City, but okay. And as I mentioned earlier, the axis of evil, the pals Vladimir Putin and Kim Jong-un having a great time together in North Korea, and China sending a nuclear-armed humpback submarine near Taiwan as Xi Jinping ramps up nuke arsenal at a blistering pace. So keep that in mind. It's not a matter, unfortunately, of if, it's when. And with the weakness we've shown on the foreign and domestic front during this administration, I don't have high hopes that Taiwan will be safe at the end. Okay, that is it for today's edition of Frankly Speaking. Thank you to everybody joining us. Thank you for all the great comments this morning. Don't forget, Sheriff Jim Allard on tomorrow at 7:20. Have a great day, everyone. We will be back tomorrow morning starting at 6 a.m. for Frankly Speaking, only on WYDC TV. Big Fox will see you tomorrow morning bright and early. I look forward to it already.
Getting aerial video for a commercial used to be extremely expensive, but not anymore. WYDC TV Big Fox now offers the Twin Tiers amazing aerial video for your business. We do it with our state-of-the-art drone and commercially licensed aerial pilot. Beautiful HD aerial video and pictures custom-made for your commercial. Call or email now to advertise on Big Fox TV and let everyone see your business in a whole new way.